The Erythran flagship, Celestial Dominion, gleamed like a polished sapphire against the darkness of space. Its massive command deck buzzed with activity as Fleet Admiral Zorix, a towering figure with luminescent skin that shifted between cobalt and violet, gazed imperiously at the holographic display before him. The neural interface woven into his elongated cranium pulsed with streams of data, connecting him to every vessel in the Commonwealth Armada. "The humans have accepted our challenge," announced Sub-Commander Vex, her four-fingered hand gliding through projection controls. Their response was enthusiastic. Zorix made a sound halfway between a laugh and a snort. Of course it was. They're always eager to prove themselves, aren't they? Like pets seeking approval. The Erythran Commonwealth, a sprawling alliance of 10 advanced alien civilizations, had controlled interstellar affairs for over 8 centuries. Their technologies were the envy of the galaxy. Instantaneous wormhole drives, gravity manipulation fields, telepathic relay stations that enabled real-time communication across vast distances. Humans, by comparison, were newcomers to the galactic stage, relegated to menial roles on the Commonwealth's frontier worlds. Their reputation was that of clever but ultimately limited beings, good for manual labor and simple problem-solving, but lacking the evolutionary sophistication for true cosmic citizenship. "Broadcast the details across all Commonwealth frequencies," ordered Zorix. "Let everyone witness this experiment." Within minutes, screens across thousands of worlds flickered with the same message. "Humans, deliver this nutrient probe to Xanthi 9. It's a simple task. Any race could do it." Commentators across the galaxy immediately began their mockery. On the Hyrillian Entertainment Network, a popular host with translucent tentacles for hair cackled. "They're sending humans? Why not send trained Zephyr Shrikes? They'd probably have better luck." Aboard the merchant freighter Aurora's Pride, docked at Outpost Sigma 7, Captain Mira Keogh watched the broadcast with narrowed eyes. Her ship, a refitted Tau-class transport vessel with mismatched hull plates and engines cobbled together from 3 different manufacturing eras, looked nothing like the sleek Commonwealth cruisers. It was a working ship, built for durability rather than aesthetics, much like its captain. Mira was of average height for a human woman, with dark brown skin weathered by years in space and black hair kept in a practical, tight braid that reached her mid-back. A thin scar ran from her left temple to her jawline, a souvenir from an encounter with raiders 5 years earlier. At 36 standard Earth years, she had spent nearly 2 decades traversing the frontier worlds, building a reputation as a reliable transporter who could be trusted with sensitive cargo. "They're baiting us," observed Dax, her first officer, a lanky man with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and hands permanently stained with engine grease. "Making a spectacle of it." "Of course they are," Mira replied, her voice calm but her eyes sharp with calculation. "But they're also offering triple the standard rate for transport to the Xanthi system." She tapped the screen, enlarging the payment details. "And full diplomatic clearance through Commonwealth checkpoints." Kira, the ship's navigator and youngest crew member at 23, leaned forward. "That alone is worth taking the job. Do you know how much time we'd save not having to wait in security queues?" "It's not about the time," said Omar, the ship's security officer, his muscular arms crossed over his chest, a former colonial marine. He maintained the disciplined posture of his military days. "It's about the principle. They're mocking us. All of us." Mira stood, silencing the broadcast with a flick of her hand. The command center of the Aurora's Pride was compact but efficient, with 6 stations arranged in a semicircle around the captain's chair. The walls were covered with screens displaying ship diagnostics, cargo manifests, and navigation charts. It wasn't fancy, but it was functional. "I'm taking the job," she announced. "Not because I care what the Erythrans think, but because we need the credits and the clearance. Besides, she added with a slight smirk, how hard can delivering a probe be? Little did the crew of the Aurora's Pride know that their seemingly simple acceptance would send ripples through the Commonwealth that would ultimately shatter centuries of alien dominance. The Aurora's Pride was scheduled to depart Outpost Sigma-7 within 24 hours. The crew, consisting of 11 humans and one Soraxian engineer named Trill, went about their preparations with practiced efficiency. Mira had assembled this team over years of careful selection. They weren't just colleagues, they were a family bound by shared experiences and mutual trust. While Dax and Trill ran diagnostics on the engines, Mira made her way to the station's administrative sector to meet the Commonwealth representative who would deliver the nutrient probe. She expected a minor official, perhaps even a drone. Instead, she found herself face to face with Liaison Officer Nylith, a slender Erythron female whose skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that reflected her emotional state. "Captain Keogh," Nylith greeted her, her voice melodious but tinged with condescension. "I must say, I expected someone different." "Different how?" Mira asked, keeping her expression neutral. "The records indicated you once outmaneuvered a pirate armada by reprogramming their drones. It seemed improbable for a human." Mira shrugged. "Rumors tend to exaggerate." She'd learned long ago not to confirm or deny such stories. The truth, that she had indeed hacked into the pirates' network and turned their own drones against them while simultaneously broadcasting false distress signals to 3 different Commonwealth patrols, was best kept to herself. Let the aliens underestimate her. It had always worked to her advantage. Nylith gestured to a cylindrical container about the size of a human child. It hovered a few inches above the floor, its surface etched with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. "This is the nutrient probe," she explained. "It contains specialized bacterial cultures designed to transform the toxic soil of Xanthi-9 into arable land. The delivery must be made to the scientific outpost at the northern polar region within 15 standard days." Mira circled the container, examining it with a practiced eye. "Seems straightforward enough. What's the catch?" Nylith's skin rippled with amusement. "Catch? There is no catch. Captain, as the announcement stated, it's a simple task." But Mira hadn't survived this long by taking things at face value. As Nylith continued explaining the handling protocols, Mira's mind was already cataloging potential complications. The Xanthi system bordered disputed territory. The nutrient probe's unusual design suggested specialized technology, and the very public nature of the challenge indicated political motivations beyond simple delivery. "One more thing," Nylith added as she prepared to leave. "The nutrient probe is equipped with a quantum link recorder. Your journey will be broadcast throughout the Commonwealth as educational entertainment." "You mean we'll be a reality show for aliens to laugh at?" Dax muttered as they loaded the probe into the Aurora's cargo bay an hour later. "Let them laugh," Mira replied. "All we need to do is make the delivery, collect our payment, and move on." But even as she spoke, she was already accessing the ship's database for every scrap of information on Xanthi-9 and the surrounding sectors. Knowledge was survival in the vastness of space. And Mira Keogh had not survived this long by being unprepared. The truth about Mira's background was far more complex than the official records indicated. Born on the harsh frontier world of Antares Prime, she had grown up in a struggling human colony that eked out an existence by scavenging derelict ships for parts. Her father, a former engineer for Earth's space program, had taught her how to repurpose alien technology from an early age. "Understanding how things work is only half the battle," he would tell her as they dismantled Erythron power cells. "Understanding how to make them work differently, that's true mastery." When Antares Prime was hit by a devastating ionic storm that disabled the colony's protective shields, 11-year-old Mira had watched her father jury-rig a defense system from salvaged Commonwealth components, a feat that should have been impossible given human technological limitations. The improvised shield had held just long enough for evacuation ships to arrive. Her father hadn't survived the evacuation. The ship carrying him had been caught in a secondary storm front. But his lessons had stayed with Mira throughout her life. Adaptation was survival. Improvisation was strength. And most importantly, never let anyone, especially the Commonwealth races, know how much you really understood. By the time she was 18, Mira had earned enough credits working salvage operations to buy her first ship, a small, dilapidated shuttle that she rebuilt piece by piece. By 25, she'd upgraded to a proper transport vessel and begun building her reputation as a reliable captain who could navigate the complicated politics of frontier space. The incident with the pirate armada had occurred 3 years later. What the rumors didn't mention was that Mira had specifically studied Erythron drone architecture for years, collecting discarded units and reverse engineering their command protocols. When the pirates, a rogue faction of Hyrillians, had surrounded her ship, she'd been prepared with countermeasures that no human should have been able to deploy. The Aurora's Pride was her third vessel, acquired after trading up twice. Each ship had been modified with systems that pushed the boundaries of what humans were supposed to understand about Commonwealth technology. She kept the exterior looking appropriately human, somewhat battered, obviously cobbled together from different sources, but the inner workings were another matter entirely. As the Aurora's Pride broke orbit from outpost Sigma 7, Mira sat in the captain's chair, watching as her crew efficiently managed the departure procedures. Kira, with her genetically modified reflexes, handled navigation with an intuitive grace that even the Erythrons would have admired. Omar monitored security systems, his gaze constantly scanning for anomalies. In the engine room, Trill, the Soraxian engineer whose six-limbed physiology allowed her to make adjustments to multiple systems simultaneously, worked alongside Dax to optimize their propulsion efficiency. The rest of the crew included Alara, the medical officer whose quiet competence had saved their lives more than once, the twins Zach and Zoe, who handled communications and data analysis respectively, Carter, their cargo specialist with an eidetic memory for inventory, Rhea, the life support technician who could predict system failures before diagnostic programs detected them, and finally, Jax, their quartermaster who somehow always managed to stretch supplies further than they should logically go. "Setting course for the Xanthi system," Kira announced. "Conventional route would take us through the Obsidian Gate relay station. Let's avoid the main thoroughfares," Mira decided. "Plot a course through the Veil Nebula instead." Dax raised an eyebrow. "That'll add at least 30 hours to our journey. But it'll keep us away from the heaviest Commonwealth traffic," Mira countered. "The less attention we attract, the better." What she didn't say was that she wanted time to examine the nutrient probe away from prying eyes. Something about this whole challenge felt wrong, and Mira had learned to trust her instincts. The first 2 days of their journey passed uneventfully. The Aurora's Pride slipped through the swirling gases of the Veil Nebula, its modified sensors compensating for the interference that would have blinded standard human vessels. The crew settled into their routine, 4-hour shifts, communal meals, and the easy camaraderie that came from years of working together in close quarters. On the third day, Mira finally had an opportunity to examine the nutrient probe more closely. She and Trill carefully opened the external housing, officially to verify cargo integrity, but actually to satisfy Mira's curiosity about the technology. "This is unexpected," Trill murmured, her multiple eyes blinking in sequence as she examined the internal components. The Soraxian's voice had a distinct harmonic quality, each word layered with subtle overtones. "The bacterial cultures are genuine, but these stabilization matrices, they're over-engineered for simple nutrient delivery." Mira finished the thought. "This looks more like terraforming technology." "Precisely," Trill agreed. "And these power cells, They're similar to the ones used in Commonwealth wormhole stabilizers. Mira's fingers traced the intricate circuitry. Why would they need such powerful energy sources for a nutrient probe? Perhaps they anticipate unusual resistance from Xanthi 9's environment. Or perhaps, Mira said slowly, this isn't just about delivering bacteria. They carefully replaced the housing, making sure to leave no evidence of their examination. As they worked, Mira considered the implications. Xanthi 9 was supposedly a barren world being prepared for colonization, at least according to Commonwealth reports. But if they were deploying terraforming technology disguised as simple nutrient delivery, there might be more to the planet than officially acknowledged. Keep this between us for now, she told Trill. I need to think about what it means. The Soraxian nodded, her elongated head bobbing in agreement. As you wish, Captain. But may I suggest we adjust our shield harmonics? If this probe contains what I suspect, it might emit quantum resonance that could attract unwanted attention. Good thinking. Make the adjustments, but log them as routine maintenance. They were halfway through the Veil Nebula when disaster struck. The Aurora's Pride had just emerged from a particularly dense gas cloud when proximity alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple vessels decloaking at coordinates 227 by 53, Zoe called out, her fingers flying over her console. Commonwealth signatures, but they're not broadcasting identification. Mira was in the command center within seconds. Dax and Omar right behind her. The main screen showed 5 ships materializing from what should have been empty space, sleek, predatory vessels with the distinctive wing configuration of Erythron battle cruisers. Evasive maneuvers, Mira ordered calmly. Kira, take us back into the nebula. The gas will disrupt their targeting systems. They're hailing us, Zack reported. On screen, the face that appeared was Erythron, but unlike any Mira had seen before. The alien's skin was charred black with veins of crimson pulsing beneath the surface, signs of genetic modification forbidden by Commonwealth law. His eyes gleamed with an unnatural golden light. Human vessel, the Erythron said, his voice distorted by what sounded like deliberate modulation. You carry property that belongs to the Crimson Veil. Surrender your cargo or be destroyed. The Crimson Veil, a radical faction within the Commonwealth that believed in Erythron's supremacy and the subjugation of lesser races. They weren't supposed to have military-grade vessels. We're on a sanctioned Commonwealth mission, Mira replied, buying time as Kira maneuvered them back toward the nebula's denser regions. Interference with our delivery will be considered an act of aggression against the entire Alliance. The Erythron's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile on a human face, but looked grotesque on his alien features. The Commonwealth has grown weak, allowing creatures like you to traverse sacred space. We will correct this imbalance, starting with your ship and its cargo. The transmission cut off abruptly. They're powering weapons, Omar reported. Shields to maximum, Mira ordered. Rhea, divert power from non-essential systems. The first barrage hit them just as they reached the nebula's edge. The Aurora's Pride shuddered violently, but its shields held. Barely. Shield integrity at 78%, Omar called out. Their weapons are more powerful than standard Commonwealth armaments. They're testing experimental technology, Mira realized, using us as target practice. Another volley struck them, this time sending cascading power failures through the port side of the ship. Emergency lights flickered on as primary systems struggled to compensate. We can't take much more of this, Dax warned. Even with our modifications, we're outgunned 5-1. Mira's mind raced through options, discarding each as quickly as it formed. They couldn't outrun the Erythron ships. They couldn't outgun them. The nebula provided some cover, but not enough for a clean escape. That left only one option, one that would reveal capabilities she'd kept hidden for years. Trill, she called through the comm system. The nutrient probe. Can you access its power cells without triggering a shutdown? There was a moment of silence. Then, theoretically, yes. But Captain, interfering with Commonwealth technology of this caliber is our only chance of survival. Mira finished. Do it. Dax, go help her. Everyone else, prepare for emergency protocols. We're going to make a run for Xanthi 9. As Dax sprinted toward the cargo bay, Mira activated a secure channel to her navigator. Kira, I need you to plot a micro-jump. Can you calculate coordinates that will put us in Xanthi 9's upper atmosphere? Kira's eyes widened. A micro-jump? But our drive isn't calibrated for... It is, Mira interrupted quietly. Trust me. Understanding dawned on the navigator's face. Like all of Mira's core crew, Kira had suspected there was more to their captain and ship than met the eye. Now those suspicions were being confirmed. I'll need 5 minutes, Kira said, already inputting calculations. You have 3, Mira replied, then switched to the ship-wide comm. All hands, secure for emergency jump. This is not a drill. In the cargo bay, Trill and Dax worked frantically to access the nutrient probe's power cells. The Syraxian's multiple limbs moved with precise coordination, bypassing security measures that should have been impenetrable to non-Commonwealth technology. These cells contain enough energy to power a small city, Trill murmured as they exposed the probe's core, far more than needed for bacterial delivery. Can we use it? Dax asked, wiping sweat from his brow as another impact rocked the ship. Yes, but not without revealing that we understand how they work, Trill warned. Captain Keogh has always been careful about survival first, secret second. Dax cut in. She knows what she's doing. On the command deck, Mira watched as the Erythran ships closed in for what they clearly thought would be a killing blow. Their formation was perfect. Too perfect, revealing their overconfidence. They didn't expect a human vessel to have any surprises left. Jump calculations complete, Kira announced. But Captain, without proper calibration, the margin for error is acceptable, Mira finished. Omar, status of the Crimson Veil ships? They're charging something big, he reported grimly. Energy readings are off the charts. Trill, Dax, we need that power now. Routing power from the probe to the jump drive. Trill's voice came through the comm, bypassing safety protocols. Captain, this will reveal our modifications to anyone monitoring. Can't be helped, Mira replied. Execute jump on my mark. The Aurora's pride shuddered as energy from the nutrient probe flooded through systems that no human ship should have possessed. Circuits designed to handle a fraction of this power strained under the load, compensated by modifications Mira had installed in secret over the years. Crimson Veil flagship is launching missiles, Omar shouted. Mark, Mira commanded. For a fraction of a second, the universe seemed to fold in on itself. The view screen showed impossible geometries as space-time warped around the Aurora's pride. Then, with a thunderous crack that reverberated through the hull, they vanished, just as the missiles reached their previous position. When reality reasserted itself, the swirling gases of the nebula had been replaced by the rust-red upper atmosphere of Xanthi 9. Warning alarms blared as the ship plummeted toward the surface, gravity seizing them in its inexorable grip. Thrusters at maximum, Mira ordered. Kira, find us a landing zone. Scanning. There's a plateau 20 kilometers east of the research outpost, Kira reported, her fingers dancing across her controls. It's the only flat surface within range. Take us there. The descent was brutal, even with thrusters firing at full capacity. The Aurora's pride fell faster than was safe. Atmospheric friction heating the hull to dangerous levels. Inside, the crew braced against acceleration forces that threatened to crush them despite the ship's compensators. With a bone-jarring impact that sent equipment flying and triggered a cascade of system failures, the Aurora's pride slammed into the plateau. Emergency restraints deployed automatically, saving the crew from serious injury, but the ship itself had sustained significant damage. As warning klaxons gradually fell silent, replaced by the hiss of emergency systems deploying fire suppressant, Mira unstrapped herself from the captain's chair. "Status report," she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos. One by one, her crew checked in. Minor injuries, cuts, bruises, a sprained wrist, but nothing life-threatening. The ship, however, was another matter. "Main power is offline," Rhea reported. "Auxiliary systems are functioning at 40% capacity. Life support is stable but limited to essential areas." "The nutrient probe?" Mira asked. "Intact," Dax confirmed through the comm. "But its power cells are drained. We used everything they had for the jump." Mira moved to the nearest viewport, gazing out at the barren landscape of Xanthi 9. The sky was a deep burgundy, with swirling clouds that seemed to glow from within. The ground was covered in a reddish dust that sparkled with metallic flecks. In the distance, jagged mountains rose like the teeth of some enormous predator. "So here we are," she murmured. "We've delivered the probe to Xanthi 9, just not quite to the research outpost." "What now, Captain?" Omar asked, joining her at the viewport. "The Crimson Veil will realize we survived the jump. They'll come looking for us. First, we repair what we can," Mira decided. "Then we complete our mission by delivering the probe to the outpost." "And after that?" Dax asked, entering the command center with Trill close behind. Mira turned to face her crew, her expression resolute. "After that, we figure out why a simple nutrient probe contains enough power to fuel a wormhole jump, and why the Crimson Veil was willing to attack a Commonwealth-sanctioned mission to get it." What none of them realized was that their emergency jump and crash landing had been broadcast across the Commonwealth. The quantum link recorder on the nutrient probe had continued functioning throughout their ordeal, transmitting every moment to an audience that had expected to see humans fumble a simple delivery, but instead witnessed something far more intriguing. In the Grand Observatory of the Celestial Dominion, Fleet Admiral Zorix watched the broadcast with increasing disbelief. What had begun as entertainment, humans struggling with a basic task, had transformed into something alarming. "They used a micro-jump," he murmured, his skin darkening with concern. "A human vessel executed a precision micro-jump using power from our probe." "Impossible," Sub-Commander Vex insisted. "Their drives aren't capable of such calculations, and they couldn't possibly understand how to harness the energy cells. Yet we just watched them do exactly that," Zorix countered. "And did you notice their shield modifications? They withstood 3 direct hits from Crimson Veil weapons." "The Crimson Veil," Vex hissed. "They weren't supposed to engage. The purpose was to observe human limitations, not force them to reveal adaptations." Zorix's gaze remained fixed on the display, which now showed the humans beginning repairs on their vessel. "I think we may have miscalculated. Vex, these humans, particularly this Captain Keof, are not what our intelligence suggested. Should we recall the probe?" "No," Zorix decided after a moment. "Let's see how this plays out. If they can repair their ship and deliver the probe as tasked, despite Crimson Veil interference, that would be valuable information." What Zorix didn't share with his subordinate was the growing unease in his mind. For centuries, the Commonwealth had maintained its dominance through technological superiority. If humans had somehow learned to adapt and implement advanced Erythran technology without formal training or access to research facilities, the implications were disturbing. On Xanthi 9, the crew of the Aurora's Pride worked tirelessly to repair their ship. The damage was extensive but not catastrophic. The reinforced hull had withstood the crash better than a standard human vessel would have. Still, they faced significant challenges with limited resources on a hostile planet. "Environmental analysis complete," Alara reported, studying readings from her medical scanner. The atmosphere is technically breathable, but contains high levels of metallic particulates. Extended exposure could cause respiratory issues. Keep excursions brief and use filtration masks, Mira instructed. Priority is getting propulsion and shields back online. As repairs progressed, Mira, Trill, and Zoe turned their attention to the nutrient probe. With its power cells drained, they could examine it more thoroughly without fear of triggering security protocols. The bacterial cultures are genuine, Zoe confirmed, analyzing samples under a portable microscope, designed to break down the metallic compounds in the soil and convert them into organic compounds. But that doesn't explain the power cells or these, Trill added, indicating a series of crystalline structures embedded within the probe's central matrix. These are quantum resonators. They're used in telepathic relay stations. Mira frowned. Why would bacteria need quantum resonators? They wouldn't, Trill replied. Unless the bacteria aren't just for terraforming. Mira finished the thought. Therefore, communication. Further examination revealed the truth. The bacterial cultures were designed not only to transform Xanthi 9's soil, but to create a vast, planet-wide network of microscopic relays, essentially turning the entire world into one massive communications hub. This isn't just about making the planet habitable, Mira realized. It's about creating a new kind of telepathic relay station, one that can't be easily destroyed because it exists in every particle of soil. That would explain the Crimson Veil's interest, Dax said. A planet-wide communications network would be a strategic asset beyond price, and it would explain why they made such a public spectacle of having humans deliver it. Omar added, if something went wrong, they could blame human incompetence rather than admitting to such an ambitious project. Mira nodded slowly. Which means the research outpost is likely much more than it appears. Captain, Kira called from her station. I'm detecting approaching vessels, 3 of them, coming in fast from the upper atmosphere. Crimson Veil? No. Commonwealth Registry, official vessels. Mira's expression hardened. So they've come to clean up their mess. Secure the probe. Everyone else. Battle stations. But instead of attacking, the Commonwealth vessels established a perimeter around the plateau and broadcast a message. Human vessel, Aurora's Pride. Prepare to receive Commonwealth emissaries under flag of truce. Minutes later, a shuttle descended from the largest ship, landing 100 meters from where the Aurora's Pride lay partially repaired. The hatch opened to reveal liaison officer Nylith, the same Erythron who had delivered the probe to them initially, accompanied by 2 heavily armed guards. Mira, with Omar and Dax flanking her, went out to meet them, all 3 wearing filtration masks against Xanthi 9's metallic atmosphere. Captain Kyo, Nylith greeted her, her skin patterns shifting rapidly, a sign of agitation in Erythrans. You have exceeded expectations. You mean we survived your ambush? Mira replied coldly. The Crimson Veil acted without authorization, Nylith insisted. They will be dealt with. But you performed a micro-jump with a human vessel. You accessed and utilized power cells that should have been incomprehensible to your species. How? Mira smiled thinly. As you said, it was a simple task. Any race could do it. The Erythron's skin darkened with frustration. The Commonwealth Council demands answers. Captain, your actions have been broadcast across the Alliance. Questions are being asked about human capabilities that our intelligence networks cannot answer. Perhaps your intelligence about humans has always been flawed, Mira suggested. Perhaps we're not the simple creatures you've categorized us as. Nylith's guards shifted uncomfortably, their weapons lowering slightly as their telepathic senses detected no immediate threat from the humans before them. A miscalculation that would prove costly. We intercepted transmissions from your ship during the attack, Nylith said. Your communications officer mentioned retaking what should have been ours centuries ago. What did he mean by that? Mira glanced at Dax, who shrugged innocently. It had been a calculated comment, disinformation deliberately broadcast to sow confusion among any listeners. "I couldn't say," Mira replied. In moments of crisis, humans often speak dramatically. Before Nilith could press further, alarms sounded from the Commonwealth vessels hovering above. The Erythran's skin pulsed with urgent patterns as she received telepathic communications from her fleet. "Crimson Veil vessels approaching," she announced. "You must come with us for protection." "We'll take our chances," Mira replied. "Our mission is to deliver the nutrient probe to the research outpost, and that's what we intend to do. The outpost has been evacuated due to Crimson Veil activity in this sector," Nilith countered. "The mission parameters have changed." "Our contract hasn't," Mira insisted. "We deliver the probe to the outpost as specified, or we don't get paid, and we always complete our contracts." What followed was a swift series of events that would be replayed on Commonwealth broadcasts for years to come. As the Crimson Veil ships engaged the Commonwealth vessels in the skies above, Nilith and her guards retreated to their shuttle, leaving the humans to what they assumed would be certain death. But Mira had no intention of dying on Xanthi 9. As soon as the Erythrans departed, she put her real plan into motion. "Trill, status on the probe repairs?" "Complete, Captain," the Syraxian reported. "I've reconfigured the resonators to tap into ambient energy from the planet's magnetic field. Power cells are charging at 17% and rising." "Good. Rhea, how are our engines?" "Primary thrusters are offline, but secondary systems are at 63%, enough for atmospheric flight if we're careful." "And the modifications we discussed?" Rhea smiled grimly. "Ready to implement on your command." Mira turned to address her entire crew, gathered in the Aurora's Pride's cargo bay. "What I'm about to propose goes beyond our contract. It reveals capabilities we've kept hidden for years. I won't order any of you to participate. This is volunteer only." "We're with you, Captain." Dax spoke for all of them. "Just tell us the plan." "We're going to use the nutrient probe's power to retrofit our ship into something the Commonwealth has never seen before," Mira explained. "Then we're going to complete our delivery and send a message that humans are done being underestimated." Over the next 6 hours, as battle raged in the skies above Xanthi 9, the crew of the Aurora's Pride worked with frantic precision. The nutrient probe's power cells were integrated into the ship's systems, its quantum resonators reconfigured to enhance their shields and weapons. Circuitry that had remained dormant, hidden beneath layers of conventional technology, was activated, revealing the true nature of Mira's vessel. By the time the Crimson Veil broke through the Commonwealth's defensive line and descended toward the plateau, the Aurora's Pride was no longer a simple merchant freighter. Its hull gleamed with energy conduits that pulsed with power. Its engines emitted a blue-white glow that no human drive should have been capable of producing. "Weapons charged," Omar reported from his station. "Shield modifications online. We're reading as a Commonwealth vessel on their scanners." "Good," Mira replied, settling into the captain's chair. "Kira, plot a course for the research outpost. Let's deliver our package." The Aurora's Pride lifted off the plateau just as the first Crimson Veil ship touched down. The renegade Erythrans, expecting to find helpless humans, instead watched in shock as what appeared to be a Commonwealth cruiser rose into the sky. Pulse cannons blazing. The first volley tore through the Crimson Veil ship's forward shields, scorching its hull and disabling its primary weapons array. The second and third ships veered away, attempting to regroup, but the Aurora's Pride pursued with a maneuverability that defied its size. "They're calling for reinforcements," Zach reported from communications, "and broadcasting warnings about human deception across all frequencies." "Let them," Mira replied calmly. "Zoe, transmit our location to every human vessel within 5 sectors. Use the emergency protocols we established at Proxima Station." For years, Mira had been building a network of human captains and crews who shared her suspicions about Commonwealth intentions. Now, she activated that network for the first time, sending a simple message: "The time has come. Obsidian Gate. Coordinates follow." As the Aurora's pride fought its way through Crimson Veil defenses toward the research outpost, something unprecedented was occurring throughout nearby sectors. Human ships, merchants, transports, even passenger vessels changed course, converging on a single point: the Obsidian Gate Relay Station, the Commonwealth's primary communications hub for this quadrant of space. On the command deck of the Celestial Dominion, Fleet Admiral Zorix watched in growing horror as reports flooded in. "Human vessels are seizing control of Obsidian Gate," Subcommander Vex reported, her skin pale with shock. "They've deployed gravity anchors? That's impossible. That technology is restricted to our highest security facilities." "Apparently not restricted enough." Zorix growled. "What about Xanthi 9? Where is the Aurora's pride?" "They've reached the research outpost," another officer reported. "But they're not just delivering the probe. They're accessing the central computer core." Through the quantum link recorder that continued to broadcast every moment, the Commonwealth watched as Captain Mira Kiev interfaced with systems that should have been incomprehensible to humans. Her fingers moved across alien control panels with practiced ease, inputting commands that overrode security protocols and accessed restricted databases. "What is she doing?" Zorix demanded. She's activating the entire network," came the stunned reply. "All the bacterial cultures already seeded on Xanthi 9. She's bringing them online simultaneously." The implications were staggering. What should have been a gradual process over months was happening in minutes. Across Xanthi 9's surface, the soil itself came alive with microscopic relays, establishing a planet-wide communications network of unprecedented power. And Mira Kiev, captain of what had appeared to be a simple merchant freighter, was now controlling it all. At Obsidian Gate, the situation was equally dramatic. A ragtag fleet of human vessels, suddenly revealing modifications similar to those of the Aurora's pride, had surrounded the station. Gravity anchors, devices that created localized distortions in space-time, had been deployed, neutralizing the Commonwealth's defensive platforms and trapping their ships in place. Human engineers, demonstrating knowledge of Commonwealth technology that should have been impossible, bypassed security systems and seized control of the relay station's core functions. Within hours, half the Commonwealth's sectors were cut off from Central Command, their communications rerouted through human-controlled channels. "How?" Zorix whispered, his skin dark with distress. "How did they learn our deepest technology so fast?" The answer, when it came, was both simple and devastating. Captain Mira Kiev's face appeared on screens across the Commonwealth, broadcast through the very network she had just activated on Xanthi 9. "People of the Erythran Commonwealth," she began, her voice steady and clear. "For centuries, you have regarded humans as lesser beings, good for manual labor but incapable of true understanding. You've restricted our access to advanced technology, limited our expansion, and relegated us to the fringes of galactic society." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "What you fail to realize is that humans have always been watchers and learners. While you openly displayed your technological marvels, secure in the belief that we could never comprehend them, we were studying, adapting, reverse engineering. Every discarded component, every derelict ship, every outdated manual, they all became our teachers." The camera pulled back to reveal her crew, humans and trills standing together in solidarity. "We didn't develop wormhole drives or telepathic relays because we didn't need to. You'd already done that work for us. Instead, we focused on understanding how to modify your technology to suit our needs. And we kept our knowledge hidden, knowing that the moment you realized our potential, you would see us as a threat rather than potential partners." On the Celestial Dominion, Zorix realized with growing dread that she was right. The Commonwealth's policies had always been based on the assumption that certain races lacked the cognitive capacity to fully understand advanced technologies. Humans had been classified as clever but limited, a classification that had clearly been catastrophically wrong. Today's events were never meant to be an uprising, Mira continued. The nutrient probe delivery was your test, not ours. But when the Crimson Veil attacked us, you revealed your true intentions. This wasn't about testing human capabilities. It was about confirming your assumptions of our limitations. She leaned forward, her expression resolute. So yes, we have seized control of Obsidian Gate. Yes, we have activated the Xanthi 9 network ahead of schedule. Not because we seek dominance, but because we demand recognition. Humans are not your servants or your subjects. We are your equals. And it's time the Commonwealth acknowledged that reality. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched as a human captain, once dismissed as a simple transporter, articulated demands that would reshape interstellar politics. We propose a new Alliance Council, Mira stated. One where humans and all races have equal representation. One where technology is shared rather than restricted. One where cooperation replaces condescension. She paused, then delivered her final point with quiet force. You tested us with a simple task. Now, let's build a true partnership, or discover just how adaptable humans can really be. The broadcast ended, leaving the Commonwealth in turmoil. Emergency sessions were called. Military options were considered and discarded. The humans held too many strategic positions now. Within days, negotiators were dispatched to Obsidian Gate, where Captain Mira Kyo and representatives from other human vessels awaited them. The negotiations lasted weeks, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The humans' demonstration of technological adaptation had shattered the Commonwealth's fundamental assumptions. Either they accepted a new order with humans as equals, or they risked losing everything to a species they had fatally underestimated. In the end, the Erythran Commonwealth became simply the Galactic Commonwealth, an alliance of equals where technological knowledge was shared rather than hoarded. Humans, with their unique ability to adapt and improvise, brought new perspectives to problems that had stymied other races for centuries. And Captain Mira Kyo, she declined offers of political position, preferring to return to what she loved, the vastness of space and the freedom of her ship. But the Aurora's pride no longer disguised its capabilities, and its captain no longer hid her understanding of technologies once forbidden to her kind. 3 months after the events at Xanthi 9 and Obsidian Gate, Mira stood in the research outpost that had been at the center of it all. The facility was now a joint operation, with scientists from multiple races working together to refine the planet-wide communications network. As she prepared to depart, Dr. Alara, the Aurora's medical officer who had chosen to remain on Xanthi 9 to study the bacterial cultures, approached her with a data crystal. We found this in a sealed chamber beneath the outpost, she explained, handing the crystal to Mira. It's a star map, but like nothing in Commonwealth records. The symbols appear to predate Erythran civilization. Mira studied the crystalline object, watching as points of light shifted and rearranged themselves within its structure. Star systems she didn't recognize, configurations unlike anything in known space. What do you think it means? Alara asked. Mira smiled slightly. I think it means our simple task was just the beginning. There are older mysteries in the galaxy than Commonwealth politics, and I suspect we've only scratched the surface. As the Aurora's pride lifted off from Xanthi 9, its systems now openly displaying capabilities that would have been deemed impossible for humans months earlier. Mira Kyo contemplated the star map and the new horizon it represented. The Erythrans had tested humans with what they considered a simple challenge, never imagining it would lead to the transformation of galactic society. But beyond the Commonwealth, beyond the politics of known space, something was waiting to be discovered, something that perhaps only human adaptability could fully comprehend. Where to, Captain? Dax asked as they achieved orbit. Mira's fingers closed around the data crystal, feeling its ancient power pulse against her skin. "Let's find out what else we've been underestimated for," she replied, her eyes fixed on the stars ahead.